First of all, Minister, do I need to move we have an amendment. We want to move that amendment number 3, I think it is on the order paper.
Move away.
Yes, I'd like to move the amendment. And Minister, I had discussions with you in the last week in regard to this, and I acknowledge that you say now that you're actually prepared to look at the possibility of having a review of the Act. And that's very welcome, and that's something which we want to see happen, because we understand that.
Do more than that. Do more than look at the possibility.
Well, fair play. Okay. The reality is that we're in here, discussing this legislation and this particular act, and it's in the 21st century, and it goes back, as Deputy O'Callaghan said, to 1939, to the Second World War, and indeed much of the intention, which was about trying to deal with issues which, for the parts of the Act that we deal with today and the sections within it, are in regard to things that were around in 1998 and prior to that, 1972, which was a different Ireland. And the last time there was a review of this particular Act goes back almost 18 years, where I think it was the year 2000, 2001, it was published in 2002. And that particular review looked at the Act and looked at the circumstances of that time, which were entirely different to the circumstances of today. And it was accepted that it needed to be continued. Now, that was at the same time as 9/11 was happening. In an international context, we can see, the way in which that would have influenced the people who looked at that. And indeed, Justice Hederman produced a minority report where he said that it wasn't acceptable or wasn't appropriate to have a special criminal court, which is a non-jury court, to continue that, particularly with the amount of international criticism that was receiving. And indeed, I think that is still the case, and that's something that we still need to look at. Because at the end of the day, when we weigh all of this up, we come in here every year to review this, and what it actually becomes a situation where what was meant to be temporary legislation has become permanent by renewing it every year. And that is not appropriate. And I think the Minister would acknowledge that that is not appropriate, that we need to have sound legislation that doesn't require renewal every year. And the fact that we're here on the brink of a deadline, which is next Monday night at 12 midnight, and we're talking about this, I think highlights the reality of the absurdity of this situation, and it's something that we need to deal with. And if a review can deal with that, I think it needs to deal with it in the most comprehensive manner possible. Now, the failures of all of the legislation and all of the issues that are around all of this, I think, are very clear when we've seen the issue of the young man from Dundalk that was found actually dismembered in this city. That shows that legislation does not deliver the kind of solutions that we want. It didn't deliver the solutions for parts of this city which was ravaged by heroin through the 1980s. It didn't deliver when we had the Gilligans and many other crime gangs running their operations across this city. It still doesn't deliver for much of what we see today, the crime, drug wars that's going on at the moment, and all of those feuding that's happening. So we have to get into the real world and recognise that legislation is certainly required, but it is not the overall solution to all of this. We need to have effective resources in place, and we need to have the Gardaí properly resourced in order to deal with these situations. We have to also recognise that we're in the 21st century, and that the reality is that much of what's happening now is controlled internationally, not just something which happens here at a local level. I accept that the Minister has said that there's going to be a review. I have a number of questions in regard to that, which hopefully come back to the end. Will it be an independent review? Does he envisage that review being similar to the one which happened in 2001, which will be headed by a Supreme Court judge? Is that the model that he's looking at? Or is it a model which I think our colleague has spoken here of an alternative model, which would be which one was it? It was Deputy McNamara speaks of it being completed by the Justice Reform Commission, I think it is. We need to come up with a solution to all of this, and I would invite the Minister to elaborate on how that's going to happen. What is the timescale going to be for it? Deputy McNamara has suggested by January. Is that possible to do that by January? I think it would be all the better if it can be, but it certainly needs to be done, I think, by Easter of next year, because we don't want to be coming back in here next year looking at this situation again. I think we need to be able to move forward from this. We need to be able to recognise that there are many, many problems with this legislation. Many problems with it that have been exacerbated by people in the highest legal field. Internationally, it has been condemned, and we need to look at all of that, and we need to bring it into the 21st century. And if we can do that, we're prepared to step back and allow that review to take place, but we're certainly not prepared to have this continuous farce happening every year where it becomes a political football. We need to end that, and we need to bring it into the 21st century. I'll hand over to my colleague. Thank you.